Okay, welcome back. This is going to be part 3. We've got our background set up, got a basic composition mapped out, got some cool textures, and yeah, let's build on some effects and some C4Ds. Quickly just do a run through the layers that we have. Turn them on and off so you can see what they necessarily do. And yeah, all of them together equals what we currently have, which is quite a nice background. And we've even got one this over the top, which is starting to do some lighting for us without even touching anything, which is nice. Okay, close this up and open our C4D folder, which has folders inside folders inside folders, which is classic. Okay, so before I get in here, so if I look at these compositions that I had for ideas, again, just move this to where ideally it would sit now. So this still kind of works. That's an option. That still kind of works. Maybe I'll start with, see if this one looks better. If not, I'll revert to the other one. So even you can see from roughly what I'm drawing here, I already have an intention of the kind of shape that I want that C4D to be in. So knowing the shape that I want to use, I'm going to use that to help me find the right shape. So let's have a look. I should have probably pre-selected some C4Ds for this to save some time, but I do get a lot of people ask me about C4Ds, and there's not really a method to it. It's just kind of, I open up maybe 10 C4Ds, mess around with them, see if they fit what I want to do. So this one's quite long, got some jaggedy edges that could work. Colors don't really matter, we can adjust them easily. Just looking for shapes that I kind of want at the moment. That shape could maybe work. That one as well. Maybe that one. Not sure if this is too kind of skinny, but let's grab one of them as well. Not the shape I want, but I like the style of them. Let me grab one of them too. I might grab these. That. These could work as well. Try one of these. Yeah, I wasn't lying about bringing in 10 C4Ds at a time. Okay, just deselect that. Okay, so I guess let's start bringing these in. See what So this C4D that I brought in before had a transparent background. You just Control A to select all, Control C to copy, Control P to bring into your canvas. This one's a little bit different, and you'll frequently see this with C4Ds. It's got a black background already in it. If I Control A, Control C and bring it in, it's going to come in with a black image. We obviously don't want that. So let me just deselect this. So with a lot of these C4Ds, they're already being rendered, they've just been put on a black background. So if you go to select, load selection, it'll automatically come up if there is a pre-cut shape here. Don't need to click anything, it'll just be the first one there. Click OK. Now it automatically selects the shape that's in there. So you just Control C, go to your canvas, Control V. Now you've got it pasted without that black background that you didn't want. Same for this one, select, load selection, OK, Control C, Control V. Boy, I did open a lot of C4Ds here. Probably too many, but if you want to see how my process actually is most of the time, this is pretty much what it looks like. Sometimes I'll have a better idea, sometimes I will mess around and see what works, what doesn't work. This process is probably a bit more likely. So we've got all our C4Ds in here now. So I guess quickly, so I did have them two different styles mapped out. So I had the one with the C4Ds maybe at the top of the canvas with some cool light, and I also had this one which is kind of more wrap around the render. Some of the C4Ds I've grabbed here would suit them different styles. So if I take this one for example, this one I feel like would work better with the top, this kind of style, and I'll quickly show the thought process. So this could be up kind of a shape in the sky. Something like that. So trying to use the light spots of the C4D as well to benefit where my light's coming from here. The C4D has light spot primarily there. That really works in that particular spot. And again, it could kind of work there too. Let's duplicate that, Control J. The key with C4Ds really is messing around with it. Placement is everything for C4Ds. You can warp them yourself 100%, but spending some time to place them properly will pay absolute dividends. So I guess really roughly that's what the first kind of idea would look like with some basic C4D placement. Just quickly, let's have a look at what the second kind of idea could look like. I'll bring this back under this overlay layer because that's influencing some of the color here. So it's okay, this is a bit blocky. Not fan of that. Get rid of that one. Next. Scale it down a bit. So this will be behind. placement there. I duplicate it, see what it looks like on the other side. Not convinced. Control T will give you the box to change sides. Hold Alt to keep the correct scale. This is a bit wiry for what I had intended, but let's give it a. What's that kind of? I like that. Because ideally you'd combine this with some other C4Ds, but that's kind of giving a nice kind of wrap around baseline, I guess. So if I'm comparing that to this idea, it's giving me that, not exactly where I wanted it, but it's giving me a wrap around on these sides, and then I would just put a little C4D on top here to give it a bit more of an immersive wrap around feel. So I want to be too careful not to block too much light here as well. So I've got C4D going this way goes around the light quite nicely there. As well, at this point in time, I'm also trying to be conscious of my flow lines, so the kind of general direction that everything in my tag flows. My render is quite centered here, so I don't think focal point is going to be much of an issue at this point in time, but if you can see how I'm roughly laying this out, so I've obviously got my focal point, Picasso drawing, but these C4Ds are kind of coming in like this, This one goes a bit lopsided like that, but most of the lines that I have are coming into where the focal point is. This really helps draw the eye to the point of the tag where you really want the viewer's eye to come to. Let's see if I like that placement, so I don't want to lose it, duplicate it. But for example, if I just had my C4D randomly here, and maybe let's duplicate that and put here. So if I compare this kind of nice clean composition flow that I had with what it looks like now, literally based on moving these two C4Ds. So obviously you got your composition here, your render. Now you've got these lines kind of going this way, going this way. So it's not really clear what direction these are going in. These are kind of coming in that way, that's going that way, it's kind of going that way or that way, it's coming that way, that's kind of going that way, it's going that way, that's going that way, it's going that way, it's going that way or that way, that's going down there. So see, all these lines that are leading in different directions just makes you kind of confused where you're supposed to be looking. You can add obviously some depth and lighting to this to remediate that, but for the purposes of this I'm going for a bit of a cleaner composition. So I want to keep some leading lines that make sense. And that's the best way to work with C4Ds. It's all about the flow and how you use the shapes to benefit your composition instead of working against it. Because it was requested, I will touch on some warping of C4Ds here. I'm just going to duplicate this layer, remove these, I'm not using them. Okay, so if the C4D is, if you want it to move a certain way, or if it's not quite the shape that you wanted, maybe it's close but a little far off. One of the things that you can do to it is warp it. This can be done through the liquefy tool. A couple of tips that I'll show you with liquefy. So here's a canvas with our layer on top of it, our C4D layer. Make that brush a bit smaller. Okay, so noticing when you bring up liquefy, this isn't the easiest thing to work in, but let's see if I start moving these shapes. Obviously doesn't look great, but see the way I can see the original placement? It's kind of hard to see where my new flow is going because I can see the old one, the old C4D before that. So that's obviously not what I intended. So a little trick for that, if you reduce the opacity to 0, go back into your liquefy. Okay, now what will happen when I move this, I won't see the background or what it used to be. See? Really helpful to if you're trying to improve the flow of your C4D in whatever way. It's a really useful trick. That looks terrible, so I'm just going to exit that. Another tip is to make sure, some people won't have this enabled. I had it automatically enabled, but this is how you show the canvas on it. Typically, when you load up liquefy for the first time, it'll just show you this. Really hard to see what you're doing because you can't see your background or your canvas. Just make sure the backdrop, all layers is selected. Okay, I'll actually try to do some liquefy this time. So we've got our canvas in the background. We know that when we shift the shape, that it'll not show the previous shape that it was. So let's try and manipulate this a bit. So these shapes I kind of like. I'm not convinced on this specific section. Let's try to bring that in a little bit. So I know the direction that my C4D is going. I'm just going to do some making bigger and smaller brushes. Bigger will take a larger chunk of it, like this. Smaller you can use to kind of get into nooks and crannies to refine it a little bit. So big brush to take a bigger chunk, and then small brush to kind of get into the smaller parts of it, like so. So you can make shapes, like this could be used as a light source in there now, for example. One part that I'm not convinced is this kind of area, so let's see if I can kind of shift that a bit better than what I wanted. This part is kind of dead. So if I can shift this in here a bit, and at the same time I don't want to block too much of that light. Small here to get into this. Okay. Not in that shape. I'll soften that one a bit. So yeah, it's pretty much just changing the size of your brush, using square brackets, by the way, and moving the C4D to, I guess, what you want it to do, really. So that's kind of going against my flow, so I'm going to bring that back into the flow by kind of following this. So that's kind of working. Let me see. I want to see if I can shift this shape a bit. Be careful not to destroy it too much. place that behind him. The shape is going to be behind him. And then the light kind of shines through here and through that crevice. That line a bit. And then bring back your opacity. So now we've done some basic warping of the C4D. So I guess this is after, before. So still the same overall flow, but this part here I wasn't really happy with, so I've just edited that to make it a bit more unique and fit exactly what I want it to do. So I actually kind of like that. Let's run with that. So that's our background C4D. I did say that I wanted to put a C4D kind of here as well. Might not work, but let's duplicate it, the edited one. Put it in front. This might be too heavily liquefied on the outskirts to work here, but let's have a look. So you saw, if you remember the drawing, this one, so this is kind of general placement that I'm looking for. And then also can't forget about that as well. So let's shape. I quite like this shape that we did there. Let's see if we can make that kind of work. Is that little? Okay, so I might try to liquefy this again. So I kind of like that. That is quite a nice placement. I'm going to liquefy this again in a sec, but just to give you my thought process, these shapes are nice, kind of going back to his elbow, and then maybe going over his hand, and then I'm going to make it so it connects back into this group of C4Ds rather than going off separate there. This part I don't like, I'm going to remove that, and then I want to use this part to try and cover the top of that gun as well. So let's, I think it'll be easier to mask away this part of the C4D first that I don't want. So just add a layer mask here. I'm going to grab a brush, I'm going to grab a black brush that will remove sections, and then if you remove the part that you didn't mean to remove, you can go back to white, you can paint it back in again. This is the best way for non-destructive editing. You can put these in all your layers. If you're removing anything or adjusting anything, it just means that you can easily undo it instead of merging something and never being able to edit it again and losing progress or whatever. Okay, so this is, I'm gonna put a temporary color background here because the background's kind of distracting where I'm trying to look at the moment, so just put a temporary layer there. Obviously I want to keep the person because I want to see what shape I'm doing it to. I'm just going to use this for doing my mask here. So I want to get rid of that. Brush a bit smaller. Okay, so this has quite a clear cutoff here. So I'm going to go a small brush, go around the edges there. Make sure that's a clean cut. Start getting a bit bigger then to clear up this part. So see how I've kind of just completely taken away part of the C4D I didn't want. I'm going to do the same probably with this part here because it's kind of going against this flow I have going kind of back there, and this just kind of cuts a line straight through it, which I don't really like. So let's see. I want this to essentially interject with that C4D. So we'll roughly map it our way, see what points would work here. Okay, so I need to get rid of sits on top of that. I'm going to bring a bit of that back to go up to that line. Okay. Roughly what I wanted to do. Now I'm going to okay, I'm going to liquefy this again. So again, reduce opacity, filter liquefy. Okay, so I like that shape. I want to, I guess, make that fit slightly more for the render, to the render shape here. Make sure you don't see the way that's starting to get a bit blurry. You don't want to pull it too much. If you do too much, if you distort it too much out of place, it will start to distort. But essentially I want to move this into a shape around the elbow. I think that would look kind of cool. So I'm using quite a small brush here because these details are quite fine. Light spot could be a bit bigger. Beef that out a bit. This, see if they like going kind of over the hand. Same with that one, kind of going over the hand. Now this kind of section here, don't want that. Pull that out of the canvas. This I want to go a bit more this way. So I'm going to grab a bigger one. Pull that out. That was too much. This shape is going to be tricky, but let's see what we can do with it. So you can give it like a, as in the name obviously, but like a liquidy kind of effect. I just need to be kind of careful with where this gets. So I wanted to cover that gun, but it doesn't have to cover this gun, it's just an idea, see how it works. Next section is, so we're taking that out, it's not in the mask at the moment. But this area here, I've got sitting there, I want to try and merge it into the C4D a bit. So I'm going to pretend that the mask is there. Start trying to pull it, to pretend it's kind of joining into that background C4D. This might take a couple of trial and errors to see, to get it right, but let's try and get it into that flow. So it's kind of like going back here and then it's joining into that. Yep. Okay, so kinda works, just obviously need to mask again, get rid of that. See the way that kind of, now it's kind of going back, it's joining into that C4D. We've also got it coming wrap around the arm here, put it out in front of this gun to cover that. So we've essentially now manipulated the C4D to the exact shape that we want it to be. I'm still not convinced on this. Kind of, I could blur it to make it look like it's really kind of far in front. Not convinced on it yet, but let's revisit that at some point. Okay, at this point I have all my C4Ds that I want. I don't think it'll add anything to this to keep adding C4Ds, so I'm going to delete these just to make my workspace a little bit cleaner. All these unused ones. Start looking at layers maybe that I've turned off. So that's kind of what I was thinking earlier with that texture, because I had the idea that C4D was going to come around here, kind of be a cool light point, but I don't think that's really going to work out, to be honest. See what it looks like. It's cool, but it's not. I really like that actually, but it's not. I had planned for this kind of spot to be dark, not light. Cool effect, but not what I'm looking for. Okay, we've done C4Ds, we've done warping of C4Ds. Lastly, I guess let's look at some quick effects. So when I say effects, I mean kind of like these light kind of effects. You'll often find them in C4D packs. Really useful tool to use. They can add some simple effects to your background quite easily. Let's see if I even like one of these for this piece. So I guess roughly I'm looking at blues, reds, yellows, oranges. Just gonna grab a couple of these, see what they look like. This might be a bit small, but I guess to show you what I mean, so put this back. So that kind of adds different dimension to your background. Kind of like that there, so it's brightening that spot for me. It's also kind of helping out with my flow that I wanted to come this way. That works. Kind of cool, but not what I'm trying to do for this, but it's, I guess, the beauty of just throwing stuff into different layers and moving around and adjusting. Make a whole different tag there by using something like that. So I'm going to bring this up a bit more. Again, going to mess around the blending modes. Bit too intense for what I'm looking for. But it's kind of following It's kind of coming inwards, it's kind of coming inwards, so what I might do, mask away some of these, I don't want that one, mask that away a bit, I don't really want this part here, I want that to be a darker spot. It's a little bit smaller, Control T. See, the kind of, it's adding a bit of kind of complexity to the shape that we had the C4Ds. Go into my mask again. There's light here that I don't want. These are really good to add to, I guess, any kind of spacey looking backgrounds that you might have. Okay, I think that one's probably quite long, so I'm going to stop this one here. So that has been C4Ds and some textures / effects, and we did some warping of the C4D as well. Make sure to tune in to the next one.